It's a little after 4. We do have a quorum. I'm going to call the Senate Insurance and Labor Committee meeting to order. All right. I would ask our Vice Chairman to please open us with a word of prayer.
All right, we'll pray. Lord, we thank you for the day. Thank you for life and for all that you've given us. I ask that you would bless us and give us wisdom as we make decisions here for the people of Georgia. Watch over us, and we'll thank you in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you. All right, we're going to try to stay on track here time-wise. I do want to change up the order of the presentations. If Senator Steele is ready, we will go ahead and maybe get that done. There is a so he's got Senate Bill 230, and we had a robust discussion of that bill at our meeting on Tuesday with some suggested and agreed upon changes. So you've got a committee sub in your folder. We're looking at LC 461174S is the committee sub. And we were eliminating the $5,000 cap on and we are changing it to 25,000. That seemed to sort of be the consensus in the discussion. And the other change is a notice requirement added on line 33 through 38. So you see the change on line 29 where we strike 5,000, change it to 25,000 per casualty. And then yes. So what's your mic number? 5. So if y'all have a minute to kind of digest that, if there are any discussion or questions or anything.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, we left the number of days vague because sometimes people don't give their notice of their renewals. They don't have a 30 or 60 or 90, so we're just trying to rein them in to say that they will make timely notification. Yes, sir.
Do you think the U.S. postal system is the best way to communicate with them?
No, not at all. But it is the only method we have. Well, just like another bill that we passed out of this committee yesterday, sometimes we need to have the option of electronic service.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the answer to my question.
All right. Any other discussion or questions of the author? Okay, so what's the will of the committee?
Motion do pass.
Have a motion do pass from Vice Chairman Harbin, second from Chairman Hodges, and it's LC 461174S. Any amendments, further amendments, or further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. All right, your bill passes as a committee sub, and you are on to the rules calendar. You think you're ready?
Yeah, she's passing them right now.
All right, Claire is passing out some supporting documentation for Senate Bill 121. Senator Harbin brought us this bill. We had a hearing on it, I think last week. I want to think it might have been 2 weeks ago. We had input from the industry. We had input from the Insurance Commissioner's Office, input from the committee members, a lot of good discussion. And to Senator Harbin's credit, he took all the comments really, I think, and has come back with a committee substitute that I think addresses a lot of the things that were brought up, and so we now have a committee substitute, which obviously is different, and I will let him now present the committee sub, which is LC 461174S.
All right, thank you. If you will, I just did a handout that you might, you've just gotten Exhibit 1, and kind of takes the DUI laws and what are the surrounding states around us doing. And you'll see them first offense, second offense, jail time, kind of gives you an idea of what's going on in other states from that standpoint. And that was really the purpose of that part, that all our surrounding states are similar in some ways. There's a few that are not. If you look at Exhibit 2, we had a duration for a DUI of 4 years when all the other states are at 3 years. So we did change ours to 3 years versus 4 years on the requirements. And on Exhibit 2, I'll explain this. SR 22, or in Florida, Florida uses an FR 44, is that when you have a DUI, in order to have your license reinstated, you have to file a SR 22, or in Florida, it's a FR 44, and you have to have evidence of your insurance that has been paid for 6 months, and you're required to keep your license. You have to pay it on a 6-month basis from that standpoint, so that you'll see that. If you look at this chart on Exhibit 2, Florida on first offense has probably the higher limits, which we had talked about, which was 100, 350 on that, and that has to be carried for 3 years. So there are states that have higher limits, and Florida was being one of those. Exhibit 3 is their statute for first-time DUI, and that statute had been in place since 2007, and they require 100, 300, 50, and if you're not in the insurance side, what that means is this: you have $100,000 in this case for any one individual, 300 for any one accident for bodily injury, and then the third number represents property damage for what you do damaging someone's car, house, or whatever you may have hit. Exhibit 4, because we talked a little bit about price. I know Senator Merritt, you had some questions on price, and what I did, I just kind of to give you an idea of what's going on, is this: if you look at a single male, 27 years old, Union City, Fulton County, driving a 2020 Honda Accord. It's got 1,000 med pay, collision comp at $1,000 deductible. If you look at the first column at the 2248, that's his 6-month premium with a clean driving record. I'm sorry, on Exhibit 4. I'm sorry, I may have changed. I was on 3 for Florida. I'm sorry when I changed. But on Exhibit 4, here's an example, and he's 27 years old. Kind of took that as just an average to know what that looks like. His clean driving record is 2248, but if he gets a DUI, to buy that same limit goes to 3406. It's on 6 months. So he's going to file an SR 22 to get his license, and then he's going to have to pay that in advance. One of the things I think that, I don't know, we're not addressing this in the bill, but to be aware of, is that the courts have the ability to fine these people when they're in the courtrooms, and those fees, if you look at them, are pretty broad. You know, I'm not going to address it here, but here's mine. I would rather see them have to buy the insurance than pay the fee, because then you're protecting the general public when they go back out on the road again. But if you look at what we've done in this bill, we have said on first offense, we would go 50, 100, 50. So we're not going high as we were in Florida. You can see the cost differential. If he's clean, it's not that high. The difference on 6 months is a little less than 400, about, I'm going to say 400, 600, about $600 difference. Where he has a DUI, he goes to $4,400 every 6 months. That's saying he has full coverage, but I know that Senator Merritt was, what's the price? If he's married, if he's otherwise, it changes, but I just took kind of a single guy, said here he is and what he's got from that standpoint. But that kind of gives you at least information of we're in the low tier with everybody else. Florida has a higher tier, and so what we did within the bill, first offense is 50, 100, 50. Second offense goes to 100, 300, 100. So we really kind of did a compromise in between. Also, with, in the bill, we changed the, I said the 3 years, that was the other thing we did rather than 4 years. And the level of alcohol consumption, and this was with the help of Senator Cowser, we used a 0.08 gram on level of intoxication. We used a higher limit. This we required is what I understood was happening. Randy, do you know anything on the levels as far as that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Number 4, DUI in Georgia, basic, not as a commercial driver or a juvenile, is 0.08.
Okay.
That's the standard.
The .08 is just spelled out in here on line 24, and then and maybe spelled out.
And line 24 and line 14.
So we're not changing that standard. We're just we're just making it clear .08 or greater.
The only difference is there are opportunities and where someone is charged with DUI, less safe driver, where actually it could be below .08 and accompanied with other conducts and observed behaviors by the arresting officer that could lead for them to be charged with DUI, less safe driver. In other words, it's a combination of factors that come in there. And then, of course, like I said, with juveniles and commercial truck drivers, it is lower. One is, I think, .05, and another right now, I think maybe .02. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we
Right. .02 is on commercial drivers, correct?
Youthful.
And then juveniles .05, I think,
And
underage.
I was unaware of this, but in conversations with Senator Cowser, the juveniles under 21, actually, they lose their license
That's right.
because they're in violation anyhow from a standpoint of drinking. So I thought that was rather interesting. But those were the changes we made. Rather than going to the highest limit, we came back as a kind of a mid-tier as far as that portion, second offense, and kind of give you an idea of what the pricing is. I think the thing I see as much as anything is for the general public is that our limits are low anyhow in the state of Georgia, and this takes a driver. They are required also to carry evidence of their insurance that they have in the vehicle. That's part of the bill, so that it can be either paper or electronic from that standpoint.
All right, any questions?
Wow.
So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you didn't put it on your Exhibit 1, but I don't really know where we are with ignition interlocks, whether that's part of the potential penalties.
That's the
And
judge's
that's up to the
discretion, I believe.
judge.
Judge discretion, and I think it's done. I mean, I would rather give that to Randy if he's an expert on that area. Senator Roberts.
Interlock is a condition offered by the judge. I know in the past there had been legislation brought forth to make it part of the mandatory sentencing on third DUIs, because a third DUI is actually a felony. It's a habitual violator. But also something that I would like to point out also is, I'm assuming this is post-conviction. And is DUI the actual charge that they have post-conviction? Because what we have many times in Georgia now is that DUIs are pled out as reckless driving. And reckless driving has higher fines than DUI and other things, but when you pull it up in the individual's criminal history, it'll come up as reckless driving as opposed to DUI. And I know Bobby and others represent companies that provide a lot of automobile insurance, and so if we're providing this information, we have to make sure that they understand that the reckless driving charge is the result of a DUI as the initial charge. And DUIs are extremely expensive, as they should be, but I'm an Uber guy myself.
Okay, so you got kind of several different things going on. You have obviously a judge can sentence them to various things, various fines, the interlock or not, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You've got insurance companies that are going to rate their policy premium up because of the violation, no matter whether it's just speeding or whatever it is, there's going to be an impact on the cost of insurance. What this is trying to get at is to protect the public with some, higher limits of liability insurance. This is really it's not, the way I view this is not so much as a part of the penalty on the person that has the violation. It's more of a protection. I don't want to put words into your mouth, but it's more to protect the rest of us that are on the road or our property or our situation. And I think it's a really good idea, good measure. It's a good step. It is very measured. It's not, we don't want to drive people, we don't want it to be so excessive or harsh that it causes people to not have insurance, not be able to afford insurance, and then maybe lose their job, all that kind of stuff. We already have a problem with uninsured drivers, so we didn't want to go too far with it. This is like we often do, because in Georgia, our seal is moderation. We take small steps sometimes, and I think a lot of times that has served us well, not to go to the extreme. And I appreciate the author somewhat paring this a little bit back based on the feedback we got. So, other questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. It's a good bill. Question, I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure from you, insurance people. If you got a parent who has a college-age child, the child has a DUI, the limits, the next time you get insurance, the limits on the college-aged kid would increase. What about the parents, their car?
They're gonna have to increase, he's gonna have to increase to comply with law.
He or she, the student.
I'm sorry.
The student.
I know, it's guys.
No,
That's fine.
the parent.
I
The
got
parents,
boys too.
if the car is titled in his name, that would be the issue from that. That car would need to be, to meet this, it would have to raise the limits on that car that he drives. The parents, if it's in their name, are going to have to at least have his car limits to that limit for the car he drives. I will tell you that, and I say that most of the clients that I see have a higher limit than we're talking about basic limits that are here, because there's so much on the road right now. 25,000 just does not cover from that standpoint.
And the second question is, I agree with Senator Robertson, who was saying earlier that, we were talking about the possibility of creating more uninsured motorists, and that should not be how we make laws, and I agree with him. But is there some way to look back at some point and see if that is in fact what we're doing, if the instance of uninsured gets worse? And I don't know if we tweak it or not. I have no idea what to do about it, but it'd be nice to know. How would you do that?
I think you and Senator Walker and I both, what I'm seeing in the market today is an extreme. I'll give you an example right now. I have he's got a $95,000 brand new truck, F-250, brand new. Lady hits him. She has $25,000. The damage is $65,000. So our uninsured motorist is going to pay for the damage that's there from his company. From that standpoint, he does not get charged. And I'm seeing an increase in uninsured motorist, underinsured motorist, I should say, more than uninsured motorists, because the accident occurs and just $25,000 does not cover the average car, probably anything that we drive.
But how do we know if we are increasing the number of uninsureds by, some kid having to pay $5,000 for 6 months insurance, and they got to drive, so they drive without insurance, which kicks up the rest of our cost if there's a problem. Our uninsured goes up.
Right.
Is there a way to know that? And
Don't
if
know.
not, that's fine.
I don't know the answer to that, except what I see. I don't have the statistical data, but what we are seeing is that even with insurance, they don't have enough to cover the things that are there. And we advise clients, you need to carry a higher limit of underinsured, uninsured motorists, because you don't know whether they have the adequate limits or not to cover the damage that they do.
Thank you. And again,
I think
I
we could,
agree with you.
yeah, so I think we could get the data on whether our uninsured motorists population increases, but I don't know that we could point to what necessarily is driving that. So Senator Merritt, you've had your light on for a minute.
Yeah, so I have the same concerns that Senator Hodges has. I'm more so worried about people not being able to have insurance. And I fear it would create, as Senator Hodges said, a condition to where they just don't get it. And they're driving around uninsured because they can't afford it. Or it's tied to the parents, because I've had to cover my kids too, and now everybody's insurance is high because of that one incident. So that's my concern. I'm not really sure I can vote for the bill as it is, because I'm concerned about that piece of it. And
Okay.
I don't know how we.
Senator Robertson?
Thank you. And again, to Senator Hodges' point, I think, insurance companies, and I know the chairman is one, as is the bill's author, but your industry is notorious for collecting data. I mean, and actuarial studies and attempting to figure out costs 5 years down the road and everything else because of the way the money's invested and everything else. So I think we could get that number, but we've always had a unique experience in my district where we were bumped up against Alabama. And at one time, Alabama was a lot different as far as insurance to Georgia. And so I would drive through Columbus and see a lot of Alabama tags parked in driveways where individuals were buying their tags and registering their vehicles over in Alabama so they could drive with less insurance coverage. And a lot of times when there would be a crash, we would basically have to find out where they live before we could really make the proper charge on this. But I think to the author, I think the benefit of protecting people from people driving intoxicated has to carry some weight to where we do not want to create more uninsured motorists. But at the same time, there has to be some tool in the toolbox that discourages individuals from drinking and driving. And to Chairman or Kirkpatrick's point, if we're not doing the interlock, and I tell you, on a normal DUI sentence, there's driving school attached to that, the DUI program that they're required to take a lot of times pre-sentencing and other things attached to it. And I think this fits in there well with as another tool we can use to discourage people from drinking and driving.
All right. If there are no other questions, what is the will of the committee? And again, this committee sub LC 461181S. Have a motion to pass from Senator Steele. Second from Senator Robertson. Any further discussion, amendments? Seeing none, those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, those opposed, like sign. All right, thank you. Bill passes. Yes, sir. Okay. So now I want to present my bill, which is Senate Bill 201. Do you want to take over being the chairman, and I'll go down there, I guess, and
Put you out there?
I think so. All right, so I can look at everybody and they can, anyway.
You send me the signal and I'll turn them off or turn them on, right? If you will, if you'll give your name and what you do and who you're running, we'd like to have you. Chairman Walker, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So as after Hurricane Michael, I heard stories and problems with unscrupulous contractors coming in and taking advantage of people when they're in a vulnerable situation, kind of in a panic, to get their homes fixed, the roofs redone, that kind of thing. And after Hurricane Helene, I heard more of that. We do have some pretty good law on the books already under fair business practices to have penalties for gouging and other type of things. We've got a good law on the books already for dealing with roofers that are and coming in and trying to kind of trick somebody into signing up with them and saying their insurance is going to pay for it. It allows the homeowner to get out of the contract if the insurance company indeed is not going to pay for it or deny the claim. But I wanted to go a little further to try to give more protection to Georgians that are a victim of a natural disaster. And so Senate Bill 201 would protect people that have experienced a natural disaster in their county. If they live in a county that's been declared a state of emergency, it would give them an opportunity to get out of a contract with a contractor on repairs for damage to their home if the contractor does not perform the work in a reasonable, time frame, essentially, is what I'm doing. And it also would prevent the practice of contractors having the property owner sign a assignment of benefits for their insurance proceeds, thereby locking them in and collecting the money from the insurance company, the actual cash value claim settlement, and never coming back to do the work. So that's what this bill does, and it starts on line 32 and of course goes all the way page 3 and then a change in the language on page 4, and then the last part on page 5, 95 through 99 talks about the assignment of benefits. It does give this sort of protection for the storm victim for a period of 12 months after the state of emergency is declared. So if somebody enters a contract and 6 years after the storm is the state of emergency is declared, they can't say, well, I have protection under this law. It's just for a limited time frame of 12 months that they would have this protection. There's been some suggested couple of little changes. I'll get to that, but I'm happy to answer any questions on the bill.
I'm going to just kind of, as I understand it, this would only be a county that has been declared as a disaster area, and it gives it so that limits it to disaster only. It could be a roofer or a tree person that you enter into a contract with to remove a tree or whatever, and that is an assignment of benefit to cancel that transaction within 1 year if they've, let's say, fixed my roof and that roof's not been fixed. They can cancel that. Is that how I understand in reading through the summary that I saw here?
Yes, sir. So that's it in a nutshell. Yes, sir.
No, I like the concept, especially as we see disasters come in. People are, we call them the people who chase storms, contractors that chase storms. From that standpoint, good. Dr. K, Senator Dr. K.
Yeah, I'm number 9. I'm trying to understand the process. So I would think in an emergency, some of these repairs would have to be done on the urgent side of things. And so if I'm a contractor and have bought lumber or whatever and have started working towards doing the repairs, and then the insurance company denies coverage, how would that work?
Well, I've actually, if it really is kind of a loss mitigation part of the situation, and they do have insurance, like let's say they just tarp the roof or make some patches, temporary patches to prevent further damage to the house, and the homeowner is insured, I've never seen an insurance company deny that. I mean, because it's in the insurance company's best interest to limit the amount of damage, because you can then get into like water damage and other things that would cost the insurance company money. But it does say that if the claim is denied, it gives the homeowner 5 days to get out of the contract. So if the homeowner entered into the contract with the expectation that the insurance company was going to pay for it, so that's kind of some of that's already in the code with regard to roofers, because what we see is roofers will come by and they'll canvass a neighborhood and they'll put flyers in the mailboxes. Y'all probably seen this, but they know there's been a storm in that area. Maybe there's been a hailstorm in that area. They'll come in and canvass that area, and they'll tell the homeowners that you've got hail damage and your insurance is going to pay for it, and they'll try to get the homeowner to sign a contract. We already have in law with regard to roofers that if once they receive notice, the homeowner that the insurance claim is denied, they can get out of that contract within 5 days. So I'm taking that sort of similar concept, and some of that language is still in this bill, because I didn't want to do away with that, because I think that's good. But I'm expanding it for if you're have suffered from a natural disaster and your county's a state of emergency, to give you an out if the contractor fails to come back and do the work. And so if you look at line 36, I'm adding failing to substantially commits work within 1 year, completing all or portion of the agreed services in a substandard manner. These are reasons that they could get out of the contract.
Okay.
So I assume if the contractors had a problem with it, they'd be signed up to testify today?
I haven't heard from them with any issues. Legitimate contractors, I don't think are going to have a problem with this. The question on the assignment of benefits is most contractors are probably going to want a deposit or some sort of assurance that they're going to get some payment before they order the materials, et cetera. But if you assign your insurance benefits to, I'm really trying to, a lot of times these people are not even from Georgia that come in. And if you assign your benefits to them, they got you over a barrel, man. I mean, you really can't, you're kind of stuck. So I'm trying to get at that.
Good bill. Are you 5?
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Walker,
I'm sorry.
on page 5, where it talks about lines 97, 98, real property used or occupied as the primary residence. It feels like a lot of these natural disasters tend to be coastal, and they may not be primary residences. Are we not able to offer these same protections to people on second homes?
My intent was really to just try to protect homeowners where they, we could expand it for sure. This doesn't impact commercial property. It
Right.
doesn't. I just feel like if it is your second home, you probably are still very stressed out and very panicked and very worried. But I don't think you're as vulnerable as somebody that is their primary residence and they could easily be manipulated because they're just, and I was kind of sort of thinking of like elderly people too. So I was really trying to protect
Yeah.
people that are worried about having a roof over their head. where they have to live every day. So that was kind of the reason I kept it somewhat narrow.
Makes sense. I was just trying to understand. And then maybe just as a follow-up, and not that it needs to be part of this bill, but just kind of on a grander scale, since I'm kind of fall into that contractor category, I've had more than a few phone calls in my years about, tornadoes that crash homes, pool houses, et cetera, and get pulled into things. For the companies that fall into this category, the scam companies, is there we don't have a contractor licensing board to report those types of activities to, but it seems like it's the same players over and over again. Do you have any thoughts about, maybe not through this bill, but just as a catalyst to be able to address that? Because we'd love to be able to chase these bad actors out of our state if we could.
Well, of course, we, as you know, we do have licenses for general contractors and
That's it,
and commercial
yeah.
general contractors. We don't license roofers. I'm happy to have that conversation. I'm not a huge fan of adding more licenses.
No, agreed.
But that does come up just about every year, and I think that's something we sure might want to discuss.
Thank you.
Okay. Senator Roberts. Sorry, I missed you on the last one.
No, I'm not in a hurry at all. So you cleared up a part of it for me when talking to Senator Steele about his second home in Sea Island, but who actually does the assignment of the proceeds? Does the insurance provider do that, or does the homeowner do that?
The insurance company only has an obligation to the policyholder and the mortgagee, the mortgage company. They do have a more obligation to the mortgage company. So if you have a mortgage and it's a substantial claim, it's gonna be a two-party check to protect the interest of the mortgage company, but the policyholder would be the one assigning the benefits in a contract that is presented to them by what I think a lot of times is an unscrupulous contractor.
Right. I had the pleasure and reality of being in Mississippi after Katrina hit. And my agency was assigned down there with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office as our partners, and we ran into a whole lot of people showing up that were looking to defraud the people impacted by Hurricane Katrina. And so what I'm trying to figure out is if I have a crash in my vehicle, I call my carrier, Becky Goldsmith at State Farm, and I tell her what happens, and I'll say, where do you want me to take it? And she'll give me a menu of 4 or 5 different service providers that could repair the vehicle for me that State Farm has great relationships with and long history, trustworthy individuals. Is that not the same way you do it when you're doing your homeowners, or is it the responsibility of the homeowner to find somebody and then just tell the insurer, hey, I'm using Larry Bob's contracting service from Gulfport, Mississippi, down here in Georgia, who came down to help us out?
So, Senator, the way we operate at my agency is if somebody calls me and says a tree fell on my roof, and it's maybe on a Friday afternoon. It seems like these always happen on Friday afternoon or Sunday or something. I do have some loss restoration companies that we work with, mitigation companies that can be a rapid response to tarp the roof, get them stabilized to where it's not going to be further damage, but it's up to the property owner to decide who to use for a contractor. And we try to stay on, especially with contractors and houses and property repairs, we try to kind of stay out of even recommending people But we will recommend, like, these folks can come out and tarp your roof or get the water cleaned up and all that kind of thing.
Well, if
Does
we,
that answer your question?
it does, because I'm just trying to educate myself. So if we trust them to do that, to go out and pick the right roofer or the right person beyond the mitigation, which I appreciate that because that lessens the damage as quick as you can get somebody out there to get the water off the floor and cover up the hole in the roof. And I think that's to the insurance carrier's benefit to get that out as quick as possible. But since we do trust them to go out and find whatever contractor they want, do you feel that it is any of the state's business if they make a wrong choice and hire a bad actor?
I see where you're going with that. I think the reason I wanted to limit it to counties that were declared a state of emergency is I think the people are under great duress already, and there is such a panic, for signing up with somebody. It leaves them very vulnerable, and they can be prey to the wrong people. I think if it's a normal type claim where you do get it, a restoration company or something, you've got your roof tarped, you can have a little more time to make a more educated decision. So I do think in the case of a state of emergency, we need to just give them, we're not telling them who to do business with, and we're letting them make that decision still, but we're just giving them an ability to get out of a contract if the performance isn't what it should be, and we're prohibiting insurance company from assigning the benefits to somebody and then kind of cutting the homeowner out of the deal.
And do you find, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, do you find that in many of these cases the homeowners want the benefits assigned before the work is done because the contractor tells them they need the money in order to purchase materials and this kind of stuff? And where in most of us, I think, any contractor I've used, I told them I'd be happy to write them a check when they drove the last nail in and I was able to inspect their work.
Well,
that was my thing.
the other
on
problem is
timing.
that if they assign assign their insurance benefits before a claims adjuster from the insurance company has come, that's a problem.
Right.
Even in natural disasters and state of emergencies, you still have a claims adjuster that's going to have to come and write an estimate for the damage, look at the policy, see what the coverage limits are. And so I think this is a situation where people are under great duress and they're vulnerable to scams, and I'm trying to get at that.
And I like the bill, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Senator, you get one more. Senator Kay Kirkpatrick. Oh, okay. You, okay. You're 10, okay, you're a 10.
Mr. Chairman, do you sell a lot of homeowners insurance policies that do allow acceptance, or assignment of proceeds?
It's not addressed in the policy at all.
Typically, it's not addressed at all.
It's silent.
So if
on
I
that.
assign my benefits to somebody, if the insurance company doesn't accept that assignment, it's no good, right? I mean, they don't acknowledge it, then they're going to deal with me and the bank. They're not going to deal with the contractor anyway.
That's a good question. I would have to ask some industry people.
I think that's probably the way it is. So these contractors, I mean, I'm not a lawyer and I don't try to be one, but I don't know that they, just exactly what their rights are. I can see what happens because where I live, I've been through some of these, but you get, and it's roofers usually, come from everywhere in their trucks and they'll go by and they'll hit everybody they can. And they'll say, well, I've got to order I gotta order shingles, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And, so let me have either a deposit or an assignment. And, you're just trying to help protect people from giving an assignment. I mean, you're saying that an insurance company cannot write a policy that allows for the assignment of proceeds to a contractor with 1 year of natural disaster. So that, I think that's what you're trying to do. Well, that doesn't impact your company's ability to sell policies, does it? I mean, we're not gonna end up with fewer policies.
No, sir, I've worked with industry on this, and it's, they didn't seem to have any concerns with it.
Okay.
If,
But I wonder if maybe, and I don't, that's fine.
if some
But
of
if
them
you-
wanna speak to it, they're here, some of them, but
I mean, as you said before, if somebody assigns their proceeds to a contractor and gives that contractor the ability to come after them in whatever way, shape, or form,
And that's what the cancellation is.
that's what,
That's what your
that's what,
cancellation's about.
okay.
Okay.
Without talking to an adjuster, that's where I was going with it. I mean, is there a way to require that they talk to an adjuster before they do that?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess we could try to do that, but I'm trying
Try and make it simple.
to let the consumer or the homeowner have an out,
Yeah.
not put more burden on the homeowner
Okay.
you gotta jump through this
I
hoop
just
to.
thought you might want to try to help them a little bit more. Well, you do that as an insurance person. If they called you and you tell them,
Oh, yes.
don't
Yeah,
do anything
absolutely.
until the adjuster gets there, yeah. Okay.
But, and I think this is, if I can step in with that real quick, I think it's a great bill where we're dealing with disaster. I'd like, just a couple of comments is this. You've got a 1 year period. I know that we had Senator Tillery talking about that it's 150 days after what's happened in Vidalia, and people are still waiting, and that's a real issue. I don't know whether, and this is again just a thought, do you extend that? And the other part, and only because I experienced this in my district and with my clients, Griffin, Georgia had tornadoes hit in Griffin, Georgia. 80% of the houses are tenant-owned houses. They're not homeowners as far as that. So that's something just down the road, just for information, that you've got areas where the houses are really, they're tenant occupied, they're not homeowners. And then you've got the same thing, because when that disaster occurs, they're coming in, the roofers, the tree people and all of that. I like it, the ability to cancel. I think that because he's gonna say, give me $1,000, I'll put a blue tarp on your roof, and and then he may leave or he may come back. But he doesn't have a choice when there's a hole in the roof. But I like the bill from a consumer standpoint. That's just some comments.
Well, go ahead. I do have a couple of minor changes I'd like to make, but if it's not the time for that. So, well, I think you have to get a motion in a second, and then
Okay,
if there is one.
I have those that are wanting to do something, and I want to make sure that the chairman is taken well. We can
Well,
take
thank
care of the chairman from that standpoint. Just one, okay.
If this is a tenant-owned property, it would still be the responsibility of the homeowner. The tenant could not enter into an agreement with a contractor, right?
So a tenant-owned property would be more in the lines of a commercial,
And I guess we shouldn't call it tenant-owned, should we?
I mean, a tenant occupied.
Yeah, no, I
sorry.
think I said it too, yeah.
It's a dwelling fire policy.
I don't think it's gonna extend the protections that is in this bill are not extended to a tenant occupied.
I
Good.
think.
And my thinking on that is whoever
got a
owns
motion
the
here.
properties or business, they're gonna be a little more sophisticated. And again, it's not the roof over their head, they're not under that duress. So
All right.
again, to kind of talk about moderation earlier, I'm not trying to make something too sweeping because I don't want to screw it up.
All have a motion from Senator Stills. Am I correct, sir?
You are, Chairman, thank you. Senator Chairman Walker, regardless of whatever your minor edits are that you may bring to us on the floor, I think this is a great piece of legislation and would be honored to make a motion to pass SB 201.
And we have a second from Senator Kay.
Now, if you would let me discuss the minor amendments.
If you're nice, I'll let you do
Thank
that.
you,
Okay,
Chairman.
let's just start the discussion. Go for it.
So I'd like you all to consider allowing us to, on line 35, to, after disaster, on line 35, add a colon, and then strike the rest of that line, so strike according to a reasonable person standard. That's just ambiguous language, and I think we don't need that language in there. So it would be on line 35, add a colon after disaster and strike the rest of that line. And then on line 83, you may say that this is adding some sort of ambiguous back. After shall be entitled to collect I want to add reasonable amount due for the emergency services at the time they are rendered. And that's the mitigation, the tarping, getting the water up, drying the floors, trying to prevent mold, the things that have to be done immediately. So I'd like to add reasonable between D and amount on line 83.
Yes, sir.
We're under a motion and a second,
Second, and
so
discussion.
in discussion, and I would move to make those amendments. That
Okay,
on line 35,
okay,
after the word disaster, we add a colon.
correct.
No, colon.
Colon.
I think it's a colon, if the lawyer thinks otherwise, but
You can actually, there's a colon at the end, so you can just strike the comma.
okay.
Strike the comma and those words, the colons.
Yeah,
Colon.
strike the comma and according to a reasonable person's standard, thereby moving the colon down to the end of disaster on line 35.
Okay,
And on line 83, after to collect thee, add reasonable in between thee and amount. And I make that as an amendment.
as an amendment?
Yes,
Okay. Second, got a second. Any further discussion? None? All in favor, raise your right hand on the motion.
On the
On the
amendment.
amendment?
The amendment.
Yep, on the amendment. Okay, and then we have SB 201 LC 461107 as amended.
Is that the
Correct.
right way to say it,
That-
Madam
that-
Lawyer?
As amended?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on what? By committee substitute. Sorry about that, I missed that word. Okay, by committee substitute. Any more discussion? Nope. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. I
Senator
appreciate
Walker, I think you're ready to go to rules. And if you talk to the chairman of the insurance committee, he probably will give you a little help getting that done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all.
Is this your first bill?
It seemed like it, didn't it?
We are adjourned. I'm not, as the vice chair, I can adjourn this. Okay, you are adjourned.